Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Creative control, creative control. Comedy, art, and sometimes rock and roll. Let's do a public opinion poll. Raise your hand if you love creative control. 'Cause when Vish is unleashed, well, Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just working on a tribute song to my favorite podcast, Creative Control, with Vish Khanna. My name is Matthias, and I play in a band called The Burning Hell, but more importantly, I support Creative Control on Patreon, and I think you should too. Quality long-form arts journalism is like a magical talking unicorn. It definitely exists, but it can be really hard to find. Fortunately for us, Vish makes it easy with hundreds of funny, thought-provoking, well-researched and engaging interviews with artists from all over the world. Your flexible monthly donation on Patreon will get you plenty of special exclusive treats and help Vish keep his podcast well-fed and cared for properly, the way a magical unicorn deserves.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today.
Don't trip, I will never let slide out of my grip. Even if I gotta prove it with my fist, you'll be the last to go. Don't trip.
Lance Sampson is a multi-talented musician, producer, songwriter, singer, rapper, and community advocate based in the great city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Though steeped in musical collaboration, Sampson is the driving force behind Aquakultre, a wondrous entity that incorporates soul, hip-hop, R&B, jazz, and pop into a unique amalgam that has some critics describing them as conveying, quote, a surprising musical expression that wafts up from the underground, end quote. That's a real quote, by the way. If you ask me, gang, Aquakultre released one of the finest albums of the year in 2022, this past July. It's called Don't Trip, and it prompted Lance to return to this show for a good talk about things like how Hurricane Fiona impacted him and his region in Halifax, how Don't Trip is an homage to his romantic relationship, the album art and why he's trying to be less of a public presence as an artist, the sonic inspirations on Don't Trip's house party vibe, rapping less, raising money for the George Dixon Center, new music, other future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners like you who follow and subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 727 of Creative Control, featuring the lovely and talented Lance Sampson from Aquakultre, with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
Make no mistake, you'll never have to look. It'll reach out and find you. I can't believe I thought I knew it all. In the end, I never had a clue. In reality, I was in the dark until I found you. Say it with me now. Don't trip, I will never let slide out of my grip. Even if I gotta prove it with my fist, you'll be the last to go. Don't trip, don't trip.
Hey, Lance, how's it going?
What's up, Vish? What's poppin' with you?
Oh, not too much. Living my life here in Edmonton, Alberta. Where in the world are you?
Shout out to Edmonton. We're in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Post Hurricane Fiona over here, and we're just chilling, man.
The Haligonians already give Fiona a nickname, like an affectionate Fiona. Fiona, is that what they're calling it?
No, that's just what I'm calling it.
It seems a little familiar to me, like given the... Sorry, I don't mean to make light of it. You went through this. You and I were corresponding around the time that Fiona made landfall or whatnot. How are things going for you in Halifax? And if you can, give us an eyewitness report. How are things going post-hurricane?
Well, Vish, I'll tell you. I'll give you an eyewitness account. When I woke up in the morning, I had power at 7:30. I walked out into my street. There was barely anything going on. It was basically just a bunch of leaves hitting the ground. There was one tree that was down on our street next to a mailbox. And that's about it, cuz I really thought Fiona was a joke until I ventured outside of my neighborhood and then kind of seeing what was going on and seeing other eyewitnesses accounts of what was happening. Fiona was bad. There's still people, I think there's 6,500 people without power in Nova Scotia. We were very fortunate to be on a nice power grid. Like I said, we had power at 7:30. The left side of my house, if you were looking outside, if you were from the inside looking out, the left side, all that side of the street was black. Everybody on the right, or there was 7 houses on the right that was full of power. People were very envious of us, but there was definitely some people got messed up. There was my friend's grandparents lost their house. I can't remember where it was. I want to say Amherst or something, but they lost their house. And some folks definitely took the toll. We're very fortunate. Shout out to the universe on that end. Georgina was okay too. She really only wakes up through storms because we get an alarm system that pops off when the power turns back on. She only goes crazy over that.
I see.
But, other than that, we're good.
Now, so as we're speaking, Lance, it's been has it been 2 weeks since the hurricane? I can't remember. Something like that. You're saying 6,500 people have not had power this entire time?
Still, I mean,
Wow.
this entire time. Yeah.
That's brutal. And yours, is it rolling blackouts still, or?
Nah, man.
No.
we've been light since the beginning.
Oh my God.
That night,
Wow.
Friday I think Friday it popped off. I want to say,
Yeah.
a Friday it popped off. Saturday we woke up and we had everything was running.
Yeah.
Our neighbor didn't get power until that following Wednesday, and the neighbor to the left, and we're just struggling. The only kind of household struggle we have right now is my washing machine's kind of on this nickel fritz, so I got someone coming over to look at that today.
Oh well, that's not that. That's bad. I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not that bad. Those of us who observe calamities like this in the news, we have our external opinions or external ideas of it. What is it like for you to live in a region that is prone to this kind of thing? And to live through it, and like you said, you had really good fortune here thus far. Well, what is that like for you? Does it make you think differently about where you live, or what's going through your mind as this is going on?
Well, I lived through 2 hurricanes so far. Hurricane 1 was the absolute worst. In terms of where I lived at, I lived in on Arch Street, North End, Halifax at the time, and it was pretty brutal. Yeah. Our whole street got destroyed, and our neighborhood got destroyed, and I just seen the community come together really well on that one. This one, like I said, man, it was kind of odd because, like I said, when I walked out, I felt like nothing really happened, but then when I got outside of my neighborhood, it was absolute trash, and
yeah.
I'm just kind of it kind of really made me think about how certain areas of the city are protected in a way, because the way that our neighborhood is built, it's very hilly. It goes downhill. No, it goes up. You got to access it. You got to go uphill. Then to get in it, you got to go downhill again. It's very hilly, and I want to say that the engineering might have had something to do with it, and the landscape might have had something to do with it. It just made me. Honestly, it just made me want to buy this house even more.
Yeah, you're renting right now, I guess.
Yeah, currently, this is Jules' house that she grew up in. Their parents, they got a few. Julia's parents got a couple more properties out in Tangier, Eastern Shore way. They kind of occupy out there. One of her younger brothers is out there too, and they're just basically building a stronghold. And they allowed us to kind of live in this house and raise our babies here.
It's owned by some family members. You're not in danger of being hoofed or something like that.
No, this is Julia's family home, man.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's a good situation, man. Very fortunate. I didn't, you could have asked me 15 years ago, would I find myself in a fortunate position like this, man? I'm just nah, I just didn't foresee that. Very happy where life is taken.
Yeah.
Very fortunate, very happy that Jules and I found each other, and we're just really happy to be in this neighborhood because, like I said, man, nothing really happened. And when hurricanes happen, like that's the first thing I think about is how my other community's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always think about Uniac Square, like how is that holding up? And when I went over there, there's still some spots in the city, man, that are just, they haven't been touched. Like there's a lot of workers, a lot of like city workers that just aren't able to get to where they need to. And like it really had me thinking about like, people without homes on these streets out here. Like where were they? Like how did they get through it? Like it just made me think about a lot of just like the systemic things that are happening in Halifax.
So you have that empathy, but you're also looking at your city, and you have gratitude that by just good fortune, in a sense, you're living in a kind of strategically good place for a place that is a coastal city and a coastal province, I guess. So that's where we're landing. Like, live high. When you live near the ocean, it's good to live high. Maybe that's obvious, but you're saying this just sort of happened to you. You and I, the last time you were on the show, we talked about your trajectory, and I know what you're alluding to in terms of your fortunes, because things could have gone another way, is what you're getting at.
Yeah. All day.
Yeah. Now, Jules, who I don't know, but as a person, I don't think we've ever corresponded or met or anything like that. I think
because you got to get Jules on Creative Control, dog, for real. Like you got to sit down and talk with Jules. Jules is doing amazing work in the city as well, cause for real, dog.
What kind of work? Hang on. Now, before we get into that, I only brought Jules up. Well, you brought Jules up, but I brought Jules up too because Jules sings on one of these great new songs off of Don't Trip, the song Lunch. And
yes.
I saw that, and I know Jules' name from you and from Instagram and things like that. So I was like, oh, Jules, I didn't know Jules sang or performed music, if you will. But let's get into that for a second. But before we get into that, sorry, I'm all over the place.
That's okay, because we know how we go. We know how we do.
Yeah. Sorry. What I was trying to say there is you threw me for a loop because you're like, Jules is doing great work in the city. So I want to get to that before we get to the music stuff. What do you mean by doing great work in the city?
Well, Jules is a graphic artist, self-taught. I think she really took into graphic art when her dad kind of started teaching her some things when she was really, really young. And then over the years, she just honed in on it. And when I first met Jules, I walked into her room and I seen all the art that was around. And I was like, Christ, we got to collaborate somehow. You know what I mean? And Jules has always been the artistic director behind anything Aquakultre graphically. She was involved in the album artwork of this new album. She was involved in the directing Lunch, the video. She was involved in producing African Funk, the video. She was co-director as well in the new video Don't Trip. Like she's always been behind the scenes but in the up at the forefront as well, because like all album arts have been from Jules Annie. Well,
speaking of being in the forefront, so to speak, I was looking at this album art when I first got the record in the mail. I was looking at the cover. I was like, oh, that's Lance and Jules on the cover. That must be them. So for those who can't see it right now, the cover is a couple in an embrace. But the fella, if you will, their back is to the camera, and then you just see. I'm describing something I could be looking at, and then you see a person who identifies as a woman. You see their head on the shoulder. So anyway, it's a loving, beautiful image, and because I know a little bit about you and Jules, that was my first thought. And then when I flipped it over, the album, I look at the back, and you see the face of the fella, I guess, and you're like, oh, that. And then I thought, oh, that's not Lance at all. And then, then I looked again. I'm like, oh wait, that's not Jules. I know Jules from Instagram. But I also think, because of our last conversation, I feel like you had the idea for Don't Trip, what ended up being Don't Trip, germinating. It was going to be an EP dedicated to paying tribute to your relationship with Jules. Am I on the money with anything I just said?
Because you are so on the money, like I could go buy a donair right now.
So my point is, it seems to me that Jules, as the artistic director, did a really fascinating thing where the record does seem to be, now that it's a full-length record, does seem to be a romantic record about a couple and a coupling, if you will, people getting to know each other and all that, courtship, all that stuff. But she has, Jules has taken this objective view, hiring models to depict you two. Sorry, is this too on the nose? Am I wrong about that part?
You're wrong. I mean, it was a collective thing of like getting other people to do it, like other people to play us.
So they are playing you is my main point. I didn't want to mischaracterize
Yes,
that.
they most certainly
they are playing
Yeah.
versions of you. That's an interesting choice. This could have been you two specifically with a photographer.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of what the rationale was behind actually creating this couple? And by the way, I feel badly. I haven't explored all the videos. I don't know if this couple recurs in the motifs of the album. Anyway, can you talk a little bit about why these people and not you two specifically?
I think because I'm just trying to get out of the the performance spotlight of anything that I really do. Like I'm trying to get out of like actually being the person I'm playing in the videos in themselves and like the pictures. Like I don't really want to be at the forefront. I just don't really want to be in the spotlight anymore.
Now, why do you reckon that is? Because you you've been in the spotlight. I know that you've been pretty active and outspoken about your health and your fitness and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
We talked about that on the last time you were on the show, how it was important for you to be maintain a nutritious and healthy lifestyle. And as I recall on Instagram there for a spell, and I come in and out of Instagram, so forgive me if I've missed anything lately, you would show yourself just sort of exercising, just sort of putting that out into the world, like I think in a motivational way. Like it's good to, not showing off, but I think just like it's good to do these things. And has that dropped off a little bit?
I was just at the gym yesterday. Boxing, man. Boxing has really been my thing, and like those type of videos that are just like a documentation of like how far along I'm getting. You know what I mean? Like this is where I'm starting, and I want to just continue to just show the growth. Yeah, in terms of the spotlight thing, because like I'm just like when we shoot these, like when we do these productions, Jules and I and my partner in crime, John Walsh, shout out to Jay Walsh, who's filmed and edited a lot of the Aquakultre videos in the last 4 or 5 years. I shouldn't say 4 or 5, let's say 2 or 3. Yeah, like we're on the creative team, and to really like be on that creative team on the direction side of things and the production side of things, and then also try to perform in these videos and also try to perform in these pictures, like it's very exhausting. So I recognize that, and I just wanted to how about we just let's give someone else that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like there's shout out to Roddy and Lika, who were the couple on the front page or on the album
cover. Yeah,
they were very cool and very like being like, yeah, like let's do this. And they were very in the beginning stages of the relationship, and they just want to kind of work and do something. Lika's also a model anyways, and Roddy is also an aspiring model as well, so they were just really, really down to work, and they were happy to be a part of the vision. I just feel like it was easier, and it was just easier to relay the vision through someone else. Like Jules and I didn't want that extra thing of like, okay, we're trying to direct this thing as well as be a part of it. It just would have been too much to deal with at the day.
It's interesting about people. I appreciate everything you're saying. But sometimes what happens when someone in your position, who's the composer, producer, does a lot of almost everything on a record like this one, when they start to slink away into the background, like you're trying to do, it actually weirdly creates more of a mystique and draws more attention to them. So,
oh man, yes. Like I have a homie that not a lot of people know of because he's exactly like this. His name's Alex. I don't even know if I want to really portray his artist name on here, but I'm actually not going to do that because I know how secretive he is. Yeah. But he's an artist, and what he does is he'll like people don't even know that he is this person. Like in Halifax, I ask people like, "Yo, do you know of this artist?" And they're like, "No, I haven't heard of them." I'm like, "Okay, but do you know who Alex is?" And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Huh. And what Alex does, which is very, very, it works for him so well, is like he'll also too. He has a very, very seriously underground I don't want to say cult following, but a serious underground following. Like people just are always up on his shit. He'll like release something, leave it up for like 2-3 months, and then take it down. for like 4 months, and then people are like, "Yo, where did that go?" And then just out of the blue, it'll reappear, and then like it just like that's how he garners the attention. But like if you ever talk to him, and like you kind of know in the background that he is this artist, like he won't even tell you that that's him.
So you're,
like, unless you're one of the homies. But I'm not trying to get to that point. No, I'm not trying to get.
Okay, you're not taking Alex's lead or anything. You're just citing another example of this. Okay, well, it's all very fascinating. It does create a mystique. It does create from your. I don't know if you feel this way, but when you pay tribute or chronicle your own life, let's say you're paying tribute to a relationship. When you chronicle your own life in art, it develops a weird meta narrative, I think, because it's real and you're reflecting the reality, but it's become sort of mediated by yourself. And that's a really fascinating thing that some of our great storytellers, songwriters, artists do. So it gives you this sort of weird objectivity. Like if you're looking at this album cover, you've created the story of your own life. Like on some level, that's not so profound because lots of people have been doing this in the arts for a long time. But I gather this is somewhat new for you on some level to take your actual relation. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about relationships in a lot of your music, but this seems more purposeful. Like there's almost a conceptual aspect to this record. What do you think of that? Does that make sense?
I always strive to be honest with myself. And this album, it's a continuation of that. Like throughout the whole pandemic, like it's like been me and Jules, and just like always within close quarters with each other. I mean, just since day one, like we've always been around each other, getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And I'm just very happy about this relationship in such a way. And now that we have children, like I just want to make sure that's documented,
right?
So when they come up and listen to it, and like, you know, they don't just look at it as like, oh yeah, that's my parents. Like if they, you know what I mean, if they ever get the chance to really like, you know, sit with the music or sit with the, you know, the art, then they're just able to really garner a piece of who we are as humans. You know,
no,
not
it's
just their caretakers.
That's lovely. You're sharing it with the public, but yeah, these records are literally records, documents of a time.
These records, like that's how I play it, man. Like I really play all the stuff that I put out as like just documents for like documentation to really find out who I am as a person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I don't never really get the chance to really, you know, these things like this, they're little gateways to that, because like, you know, we're just talking, we're getting to know each other, but like I'm a listener, you know what I mean? Like I come into conversations as a listener.
Yeah.
And I don't really necessarily get asked the question of like, yo, Lance, like that, like I don't really get that outside of my even within my like my friend circles and my community. Like I'm more of like, okay, like I'm just like a solution role, you know what I mean? Like, okay, how can we get to the problem here? Like, you know, It's never really like when people do, like, you know, I have homies like a shout out to my friend Dolo. Like he's someone who I have in my life who really challenges and asks challenging questions for me, and it's just like, okay, I have to get used to that, because there's folks that really genuinely just want to know how I am, right?
Yeah.
And I got to get used to that. Yeah. I use art as that, like, okay, here's how it is that I am. Here's how I feel.
Yeah.
And it's been beautiful, man. It's been a long journey of growth, man. Like, and I feel like this album is truly like, you know, I'm growing. Like this really shows like the growth.
Absolutely. I want to say, forgive me, I'm going to go on one of my rambles, because I got a few things.
You better go on your ramble.
Give you a little break. Let me talk for just hopefully not too long. I want to say a few things. Number one, I am astonished that more people aren't talking about this album. I think it's one of the best records I've heard this year. I feel like it's very underrated. Unless I'm missing something, I don't feel like I'm always in the loop. But I just am like, I put this on, it just seems so ambitious. It's so vibrant. I love it so much. Now, I've said those things. It's also, as I look through the credits, it's extremely ambitious. You are on fire. Just looking at what you have taken credit for. You've got lots of guests on here, and I want to get to all those folks, as many as we can, to figure out where this came from. But just looking at your, like, I'm just going to grab the liners here for a second. Like, often all of the songs say some semblance of produced, written, and composed by Lance Sampson, and then it, in some cases, it describes the instruments you're playing. Not all songs are produced by you completely, but it's just remarkable. And where I'm coming from is this is a very ambitious work, fully realized work, as you said. But as I alluded to earlier, from what I can recall, the concept started as an EP, which for those, just to distinguish, an EP is generally a shorter project. It's not a full-length album. So how did we go, Lance, from I'm going to put out a relatively modest EP, not that it would have been. I'm sure it still would have been ambitious and all these things, but how did we go from I'm thinking about putting out an EP that reflects my relationship to this very bold and ambitious, multi-layered, full-length record? Can you take us through that process?
Yeah, most certainly. So the first track that on the album that we started was I Can Wait, which is a song with Shooty Harris, Zamani, and Nix. Shout out to my homeboy Nix. It started, I think we started recording that before the pandemic hit. Pandemic hit 2020. We recorded that, I believe, November or maybe early December of 2019.
Am I misremembering that? Didn't you send me some of these songs?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
I think I did, definitely, most certainly.
Like right after we last spoke, which I don't remember. That might have been 2018 or 19. I don't remember, but I feel like when I put the record on and started listening to the record when it was actually out, I'm like, wait a minute, I know Lance sent me this stuff. Sorry, Lance, I get a lot of stuff, and sometimes I forget what I've even gotten. I'm getting old, is what I'm saying to you. But no, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar to me. And
there's definitely some on there.
And I thought it felt like a bit of a departure on some level. But again, as I recall, you explained that it was going to be a little bit different anyway, than the Aquakultre maybe we were most familiar with. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. That just came to me in a sudden, wait a minute. Like, I feel like you've been you've been working on this a long time, is all I was getting at.
Oh my gosh, since 2019, man, for real.
Yeah.
But like I really started honing in on certain things like when we were locked down. Because like when we got locked down, the few things I focused on was like family history. I started diving into that, just diving into like just working on these tracks. And I'm pretty sure it was I Can Wait. Milk and Honey was the second one, and it kind of went in sequence because the EP was going to be like it was in order of the ones that I worked on, like starting from first to last.
Right.
So it would have been 5 of them, which the EP would have been I Can Wait, Milk and Honey, which would have been Sugar Honey Iced Tea. I changed it to Milk and Honey. 3 would have been Magic. 4, I'm pretty sure. I think at that point I only had 4 of them. Like 4 of them, the 4th one would have been Don't Trip, and I don't think I had any more of that. Of the EP.
If I may interject again, yeah. I'm looking through my music library on my computer. What I have here is, this was sent to me, I guess, in 2021. Sorry, I can't remember. When were you? I don't even remember when the last time we spoke. Sorry, Lance. This says 2021, okay. And it says Closure Demos.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, because the album the EP was going to be called Closure.
Yes,
and I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there was a couple slow tracks on there, which Closure would have been on there.
Baby, I'm for real. Don't trip.
Yeah.
I Can Wait. Milk and Honey. There's some of these say Lance made. That's what it says in parentheses. It says Closure, Lance made, and I got here Magic. It's All Good. Unfinished Demo. LNAEM. I don't know.
Yeah, late nights and early mornings.
Yeah, there you go.
Didn't end up making the cut.
Yeah.
Didn't end up making the cut.
Sorry, is this revealing too much? I didn't mean to. Now I got excited.
No.
Okay. Same damn time.
Good.
Same damn time, and you got Feet. So again, sorry, for those who don't know, the finished, actualized album, Don't Trip, a bunch of those songs that I just cited are on Don't Trip. So...
That's right.
Anyway, sorry. I just got excited there. I don't know if that year... I feel like you sent this earlier than 2021. But anyway, never mind. Anyway, really remarkable. So you've been working on this a long time, is what I'm coming...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it started off with those 4, and then it became Closure, which is the one I sent you.
Yeah.
And I basically... It changed a lot because... I was listening to a lot of, I don't know if everyone's familiar about this, but there's this group that I really like and appreciate that has Fonte Coleman in it. Fonte Coleman, a little brother. Mm-hmm. It's called The Foreign Exchange. And when I listen to a lot of the Foreign Exchange records, they're all very cohesive. They all like have interludes that connect with each other, like instrumentally. They connect. And like when I sent off that Closure demo album to folks, you know, I wanted to get some feedback. Like, yo, how do you feel about this? And everyone was like, yo, like all like the real serious like up-tempo tracks, they were getting good feedback, but it was kind of throwing people off the fact that there was some high energy tracks and then it was going to slow.
Yeah.
So I was like, how about I just take all these slow ones off and just kind of build and create more up tempo things, and then like a bigger concept came into play, and I was like, yo, like let's allow this to be about, you know, Jules and I, but also let's make it like those 90s albums that like you can just chuck. Let's make it a house party vibe.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to bring it back to that. I wanted to bring it back to, you know, those albums that you can just chuck on while you're cleaning your house, or like, you know, you and your partner having like a little late night like dinner, you know what I mean? Because I want to bring it back to that same feeling when Jules and I first met each other. We went back to her place, and man, we just chucked on records and just listened to them and danced all night.
Yeah.
I wanted this album to kind of really be like that, where you can just, you know, you're coming back from a date or something, or like, you know, and then you can put that record on, and then it's just you and your partner, you know, making babies.
Yeah, it does have a making babies vibe, if I might say, with all my prudishness. Yeah, it definitely has that feeling. You know, what's interesting to me is this is, as we've established, a very, very personal record, and songs like oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. I was just going to say.
No, go ahead. What you were just gonna say was like, yeah, like Magic is like the one. Like it's low key the one, because when you really chuck that on and listen to it, yeah, it's kind of upbeat. It's like it's very groovy, but when you actually listen to the content and the lyrics, you're just like, oh Christ, like that's deep. And I feel like a lot of the serious tracks, like man, like I'm thinking about like Teddy Pendergrass, like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Like when you really, you know, a lot of their tracks are groovy, but when you listen to what they're saying, you're like, oh man, like this is deep, and I want to kind of create something like that.
Yeah, for Magic, I'll just read a little bit of the lyrics out to people so they know what you're kind of referring to. By the way, I was also going to cite "Don't Trip."
You gotta sing it. You can't just talk it. You have to sing it.
No, I'm not going to do that. Stop. I chose my. You know what? When you start making a podcast, when you're a musician, and you start getting into music journalism or podcast, that is you acknowledging that you know your lane. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
I will sing to my daughter at nighttime mostly. My son now has been like, I don't need this anymore. Leave me alone. I don't need songs. But my daughter,
get out of here.
I take a guitar up there and I sing to her, and sometimes I feel like I'm getting better at it. But anyway, I'm not going to get into me here. All I was getting at is Magic and Don't Trip in particular. Like the whole record is very personal, but songs like Magic and Don't Trip really are you. The rest of the record is full of that house party guest vibe. Lots of features, but Don't Trip, by the way, I would put that up there as a song of the year. Just gets in my...
You think so?
Absolutely. Love it. Just love that song. It's mesmerizing. It's hypnotizing. I just love it. So I just want to say that about that song. What I was going to say is, just to get into the depth and breadth of the record, here's how Magic begins lyrically. When I was a little one, always wondered where what I had was given. Must have been looking for something. I even put my faith in that religion. But then I grew up, realized you shaped the way I forgave you. I was just trying to make sense of it, and I knew it wasn't your fault. Now, I know a little bit about your history, Lance, and I know that your father wasn't around.
That's true. Yeah.
But anyway, this song that I'm reading very blandly to people listening right now has the most amazing musical arrangement. And again, produced, written, and composed by Lance Sampson, keys-based drum programming by Lance Sampson. Someone has mixed this. So this is you in solitude making one of the most amazing songs I've heard this year. And
wow, that's awesome.
Just like, I'm very just impressed by what you've done on your own, and on songs like that and Don't Trip, you're really in the fore they're really all you as I look at the credits.
That's right. Yeah.
The rest, though, I feel like you have the ear of a producer, and you're assembling teams on every song that makes sense for those songs. They're still you, and they're still personal. Anyway, I just wanted to reference that because I find that dichotomy, if you will, really interesting. That it is a really deeply personal record by one person, but it features all these other people bringing your vision to light. So where did that sort of concept of like, I'm going to make this a fully loaded multi-collaborator affair, do you know when that sort of idea percolated and you thought, yeah, I'm doing this?
Yes, I think it was after listening. It was after listening to one of Foreign Exchange tracks, "Better," and it was also after listening to Robert Glasper's like Black Radios, like very, very intently. Black Radio came out pretty recently, but Black Radio 1 and 2, like when you listen to them, like they're stacked to the teeth, Like, and it's like the artists that are within every song, like they really stuck true to what the concept of that song was.
Yeah.
And I really, really love those. I love that, man. Like I love stacking everybody onto one thing, especially if like they can stay true to what that song is about.
Yeah.
Because man, I try to do a lot. Like I try to sing. I rap. I try to sing to the best of my ability, but I just like, I know folks can really, really kill this. Like I know there's other folks that can kill this. Just let me send it over and see how they play it.
Yeah.
Like let me get their take on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is definitely me like falling into that producer role because like I just really wanted to show off that. I wanted to show off like, I'm capable of really putting together something that folks can really enjoy. Because I've watched and sat in the foreground of a lot of my homies doing the producing, and I'm just like, man, I want to give this a try, man. It's just like building a piece to the puzzle, and like when you get stuff back, and it fits so well. Like you should have seen the excitement I got when Jules and I finally got like the stuff from Phoenix Pagliacci and Osan Lee for You Got Face.
Yes, yeah,
and like the guitar and the trumpet. Like there was when we got that, and I was like, "Cuz this is like," it was the feeling that I was like, "Yes, this is why I'm doing this." You know what I mean? This is why this is it. But it really conceptually, like stacking everything and putting everybody in on one thing to follow that concept. It definitely came from like the Black Radio albums for sure.
But going back to what we were talking about in terms of Jules and you and your whole crew really conceiving of this sort of narrative, the narrative elements of everything to do with this record, from the videos to the album art. And so, like, basically, in a sense, like I said earlier, depicting yourselves as characters, I think it really, like, when I look at a song like It's All Good, which I believe the vocalist is Lakita Wiggins, is that right?
Lakita Wiggins, yeah, shout out to Lakita Wiggins, most certainly.
Brilliant vocal on this, but it creates a conversational song.
Yes.
Like it's like characters talking to each other and very charmingly talking about records that they want to play for one another. What a beautiful part of a courtship, of sharing music with each other and bringing records over and loaning them to each other. Sorry, this was a trick of mine in university. I don't mean it to be a trick. I wasn't a jerk, I don't think, but I had a thing I used to do. If I was interested in a person, a woman generally, that's who I am. That's just who I am. I'm not going to apologize. I like the ladies. Anyway, so if I had fondness for a person and I felt like where something was happening, I would lend them a very particular album by Bob Dylan. And this is common knowledge. Everyone I have ever dated, and it's not very long, they know this is true. I've told them this is I didn't tell them at the time, but I'm like, take this album, John Wesley Harding by Bob Dylan. Let me know what you think of it. And if they responded well to it, I'm like, this is going to go somewhere. And if they didn't, I'd say, this is not going to work out. Because I just think this record is very interesting. Sorry, I'm going back to like 1997 or 8 with this thing that I used to do. Anyway, on this song, It's All Good, you and Lakita are playing sort of characters, in a sense, going through this discussion about records by D'Angelo and who else is on here? Lauryn Hill,
Erykah Badu,
Dilla, and it has a Dilla feel too. I must say. So all this to say,
you know what, that Dilla feel that you're feeling, man. That's all Trobiz, man. Shout out to Trobiz.
Yes,
he's the he produced it. Like he was the one that was like, okay, yeah, this is the composition. Like he was behind the beat.
Yes.
And like I was behind like the vocal aspect of it. It was like we co-produced it, like we produced it together.
Yes, it says.
Trobiz and I.
Yes, it says that. Yeah, produced by his real name, which is, I'm trying to read this.
Tremaine Howe
And Lance Sampson. Yeah.
Well,
I didn't mean to lose the thread, as I often do as I go on my rambles. But the notion I was getting at is, do you think adding all these voices and other players, if you will, gives this record an even more theatrical feel, if what I was sort of proposing earlier makes sense, like that there's a sort of theatrical concept to everything about this particular record?
I think so, because it also just shows a community aspect of it too. Like there's still community within this.
Yeah.
And I feel like because since day one, that's kind of where I always stood, was with the community. And I feel like without adding all everybody else in it, the major players, I shouldn't say major, but the players, it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have hit that much. I don't think it would have, like, because like when you hear other voices and other musicians coming together and doing something, like it establishes as like this really interesting feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have hit. Like if everything was just me on there, like it was just like I just didn't want to follow the same routine like we did with Legacy,
Yes.
Because Legacy, I felt like it was definitely lacking a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely lacking, the collaborations. Obviously we did our damn thing on that record, man. Legacy is beautiful. I can't believe we put that together. Yeah. But there was certain things within. I was like, fuck, man, like this artist could have been on this. Like I feel like we could have added this here, like some vocalists here. You know what I mean? There was just so much things. I was just kind of learning from that, and I just didn't want to make that same mistake with this one.
Well, community is an interesting word to invoke in this particular context, because this is not limited to Halifax. You seem to have also made a point of reaching out to people from at least throughout this country and I think even beyond Canada. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, most certainly, man. Like, shout out to Amira Fleur from South Africa, someone who I met just through SoundCloud exchanges, and we collaborated on a couple things, this one being the first. And, I've also had a South African connection with a lot of the SoundCloud stuff that I was doing is still in release. There was an EP that I put out, I can't remember when, I want to say 2018, with a South African producer, and actually really got a lot of attention on SoundCloud with with that community, and that's how I got to know I got to meet and talk to a lot of the South African artists I know. But yeah, we went broad with this, man. Like I basically called on every person that I was like, I love what they're doing. I was like, I need you. I just try this out for me, would you, please? Try it out.
So there's a social component then to the community stuff and reaching out, but this is a record, I think, very much about the notion and concept of family. Is that a fair view of it?
Oh, most certainly, cuz.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah. You just called me cuz, so now I feel like I'm part of your family.
All day, cuz.
Cousin Vish. Cousin Vish is in the house. Yeah. No,
Cousin Vish is in the house, dog.
No, I mean,
it's all family.
I alluded to magic. I speculated that it could be a child reflecting upon a parent. Is that correct? On some level?
Yeah, yeah. So that track on it, like, it is very personal. That's me actually, in response to my father, who was definitely not around. And I always questioned why, and it honestly made me hate that side of my family for a long time, because I only had one side of the story, and how my mother's side of the family, or my mother, really felt about my dad, and I never really got to engage in conversation about why it is I'm hearing all this different stuff about him.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And when I finally, really sat down with my dad, there's been numerous times when I was younger, we were around each other, and I kind of just used that relationship as like a money thing, like, oh, can I get this? Can I get this? And he saw that and was like, well, and it kind of grew us apart a little bit, because that was my intention. Like, you're only good for money. And when I got older, when I got into my 17, 18 on to adulthood, and I actually really truly sat down with my father and was like, you know, really got to know him and speak to him and didn't look at him as just a bank. Like, I just noticed how similar we were as people,
Yeah.
like musically, physically, you know, mannerisms, like a lot of my musical, you know, the DNA that I have within me, it comes from that side of the family. Like all my dad is a singer-songwriter, he plays guitar. My older brother, singer-songwriter, plays guitar, produces. Another older brother, like three of my older brothers, like they're all musically gifted.
Yeah.
And every single one of my siblings has a voice, like a really good voice, like they can actually sing. So I was like, this is where it comes from, because, you know, listening to my mother's you know, chops on the country, she wasn't a great singer. So I was like, yo, where's this coming from? You know, and I suppressed it for a long time. And it's just like, you know, when I talked to him about, I just sat down and was like, and when I really talked to him about, you know, why was it that you weren't around? And he basically just kept it real. He was like, when I was with your mom, Dukes, man, I was out here running around. I was you know, I was dibbling dabbling with the street. I just always had to keep moving. You know, I'd be in the city dealing with this woman, you know, and then I would move on to the next city. And sometimes I didn't even know that I had kids just running around. You know what I mean? And the relationships that I've had with certain women, you know, it didn't really give me any comfort in coming within their space, because, you know, we left on bad terms. So it was like, I just basically waited until you guys are ready to come speak to me. And I was like, you know what? It's fair enough, cuz I'm not going to hold it against you. And we just kind of built our relationship through healing that process. And like, I'm just kind of like, I just get in touch with him every now and then. And I just try to make sure he's mentally good, mentally stable. You know what I mean? Because that's just how I am. That's just how I was meant to be on this planet, was making sure that folks were good and okay. You can unload on these shoulders, and let's get back. Let's get to the solution. So yeah, it was just that song is, you know, me going through that emotion, and then at the end of it, just really, you know, just giving forgiveness. You know what I mean? That's all what it's about, you know?
Well, I mean, it ends, so as I alluded to earlier, it's a beautiful arrangement, like just a musically sophisticated arrangement, and everything is basically, everything on this song is helmed by Lance, for those going to the record, hopefully after this conversation. But yeah, the song ends with, must be some type of magic. I never gave up on him.
That's
and
right.
That's your father. So that's just a beautiful sentiment, and I appreciate everything you just said. That's really lovely. Keeping in the family vein, and on a more joyous, I think, and infectious level, you got feats. You got feats is, I think, an allusion. Is it to your own grandmother?
Yeah, it's basically grandmother and moms. You know what I mean? Mom and nanny. Because I always remember being at functions, and nanny specifically. It's got to be, you know what, when I really think about it, it's got to be about nanny, because any function, I never really see mom dancing too much. You know what I mean? But
yes.
Nanny, oh man, shout out to Carolyn. When she gets going, she gets going. I just always remember being at functions and just dancing with my grandmother. You know what I mean? So that's what You Got Feats is about, man. It's about, you know, being within that family setting, you know, those functions, the parties, the family parties, reunions, because, you know, it's definitely a shout out to Africville reunion as well. And just dancing with your people, man. Just getting your grandmother dancing, because as soon when you get older, Vish, cuz as soon as you stop moving, that's when disease sets in. So can you please keep walking?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to go play ball.
Please keep walking.
I'm not that old yet, but I'm going to go play ball. I'm going to play ball with my son today, actually. We're going to go shoot some hoops and get some activity going on. Now,
but shout out to Phoenix, though, because Phoenix, when I sent that to Phoenix was definitely like, yo, I've really, truly, truly appreciate this concept. Phoenix was also very thankful of like the step-by-step things that I was trying to get them to do.
Yes.
Because like the song was essentially finished when I sent it to them, and I was like, can you just make it your own? Can you try to do it this way? Like I had the melodies all laced down. I was like, here's a bass, like just, you know, use that as a bass. And Phoenix was very, very thankful that I broke it down to them that way, and was very, very appreciative of the concept, and sent something back immediately. And when we got it back, like Jules and I were like, damn, awesome.
No, it's fantastic. I was just pondering the song Getting Close, featuring Sergeant and Comrade from where I'm closer to where I am. They're from Calgary, Alberta. there's a lot of voices on this record, and that's, I think, on purpose. It can be. I know you're on it a lot, even though there's all these guests. However, when I was pondering Getting Close, I'm like, this feels to me one of the few instances of Lance full on rapping. Am I wrong? Do you do less? My question is, do you do a bit less rapping, all told, on this record?
On this one, yeah, I think what is it?
Well, maybe I'm For Real as well. I can't remember, but
I'm For Real. I'm not rapping. It's
No.
the one with Sergeant and Comrade.
yes, that's what I'm saying. So is that the only instance? That's what I was talking about. Getting Close to me, Getting Close rather to me, Vish,
Yeah.
seems to me the one standout song where you're full on rapping. Are you agreeing with that?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's the only one where I'm rapping. I had to show the chops. You know what I mean? I had to show the chops.
Do you know why you put rapping on the back burner for this particular record?
I honestly, I don't really know why. I just feel like I don't know, honestly.
You alluded to the fact.
The rapping. I felt like I could delegate that task to others.
Yeah.
But for this one, because this specific track, Vish it was meant to go on the closure part or the closure edit of the album.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, like the composition on this. Shout out to Count Cole. Doesn't like to be credited, but definitely credited him because I purchased a beat off of Count Cole, 2 of them, and it made the cut. But yeah, just compositionally, I was like, yo, this fits. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a good way to kind of like go from one side to another. You know what I mean? I was just like, let's just put it on there and kind of show the chops, I guess. You know, I don't think I'm really going too crazy bar for bar wise, but I think.
No, but it sticks out. It sticks out because it's one of, like I say, it's one of the only. It is now. You're confirming it's the only instance. Like I said, there's so many voices swimming around on the record that I'm like, did I miss Lance rapping elsewhere? But I was pretty sure this was the only one, Getting Close, that you were rapping on. But and I don't mean to generalize, and I might be wrong about this because I'm not super steeped in the music of the like R&B of the '90s. But in my recollection. The records I would listen to, it wasn't unusual for there to be a little bit of rapping every once in a while.
That's true.
In kind of 90s R&B, soul, and so that's the one thing I wanted to highlight. Like, to me, this, I think you've acknowledged it too. This record is a bit of an homage to that era and that sound, which is fascinating to me because a lot of us who are immersed in indie rock or other music genres have seen various 90s resurgences or illusions.
I love indie rock, by the way. I love indie rock.
Yeah. No, but like whatever, like the sort of underground punk and noise and indie rock and pop even of the 90s.
It's coming back.
Well, it has been back. It's the one that I keep seeing circulate in and out. We've had various sort of throwbacks to the 80s and 70s and blah, blah, blah. What is it about the 90s? And I can't recall. We were on this. I don't even know if. How old were you at the end of the 90s? Like, what were you, a teenager?
I was born in 92, so end of 90s going into 2000. I was only 8.
Oh my God! So you weren't even. Holy Lord, you're young. I didn't know that. Okay, so what I wanted to say though, for me, I was a teenager in the 90s, so that's a very formative time. And a lot of my peers who are in sort of noisy rock bands or indie rock bands or whatever genres. When they adopt those sounds, I know that they're digging deep into their own psyches and finding something comforting. So you weren't even really at a super formative age. Like, you're 7, 8. Some of those R&B records you probably shouldn't have been listening to. Let's be real.
I know. Like, I had this conversation with David Miles recently. I was like, yo, like, the music that we were listening to, especially on like BET, Much Music not so much, but BET, like, it was so super hypersexualized for our age, and that's probably why I remembered so much, because I'm like, holy crap, there's some booties over here, you know, got men with their shirt off, you know what I mean? You got Tyrese with his shirt off, looking handsome and sexy.
Yeah.
I'm not straying away. They had men's looking handsome as hell on BET. You feel me? And like, we were just like, you know, that's what we were exposed to. And I feel like that's why I remember it, you know, being so young. It was just like, but it was groovy, right?
Yeah.
Like, Next Too Close, like, that track is groovy, and that's what I Can Wait's based off of. But when you listen to the lyrics, you're like, Christ, this is dirty as hell.
Well, so where I'm coming from, though, is it
Dirty.
seems to me that your affection...
I flipped the script.
You did. But your affection for that era is almost a student's affection, like a historical affection. It wasn't super formative for you. I mean, maybe you caught it when you were 7 or 8, but I'm going to guess that it didn't really hit you until your teens or now. So do you have a sense of why that era... that you weren't, I'm just speculating that you weren't super a part of it, by the way, but like you weren't like a teenager who could process and things in a way that a 7-year-old would. Do you have a sense of why that era spoke to you in terms of making this particular album?
I think like, cause when you broadly look at it, there's definitely like, there's a lot of influences in there, like definitely a lot of influences, like someone pointed this out. Shout out to Allison Fry. She runs the Mosaic Festival in New Brunswick or Moncton. She pointed out in Milk and Honey, and nobody really pointed this out to me yet, that, you know, at the very end of Milk and Honey, when we really go high on that sweet like milk and honey, she's like, yo, I can hear Gerald Levert. I'm like, I'm glad you caught that, because that's where that influence is. Like, I just picked so many things, and I don't know, call it biting, call it whatever you want, but I was like, I wanted this album to really be a nostalgic thing of like, oh, I remember like the way that Lance is performing on this, or the way that, you know, the other artists are performing on this, like it reminds me of a certain song. Let me go find it, you know, because that's what a lot of that's what a lot of music does for me, is like, oh, I recognize this. Like, how do I recognize this? Like certain melodies, certain like chords, and like it sends me on this loop. But yeah, like there's just so much influences. Like Magic was like, okay, I'm gonna try to manifest Luther Vandross on this. You know what I mean? Next to close, I Can Wait was like, you know what? I'm manifesting next on this. You know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to bring that feel and just really mesh in all the influences over the years that have shaped my palette.
Oh, and then it's totally valid. I just was wondering, because I'm brought back to being in sort of junior high and high school, and at the time it would be things like Belle Biv DeVoe or Tony, like just like things that were out and were pop, but were not exactly.
Junior high, I wouldn't have been really pumping all that stuff. Junior high, I was more into. Junior high was my serious.
Oh, but I'm talking about myself. Sorry, I just for a second, I'm just saying, like, this is where when I'm listening to this album, my ear takes me right back to Lincoln Avenue Public School when I was in grade 7 and 8 and Cambridge, Ontario, and just thinking, and I was always a Beatles fan, and I got a lot of trouble, you know, all the kids, mostly the girls.
Were people hating on you because you liked the Beatles?
Yeah, the dudes in my classes all liked Kiss and Slaughter, because this band Slaughter opened up for Kiss, and they all loved Kiss, and then they came back with Slaughter t-shirts, because that's what you do when you see the opening band. You're like, I think the opening band, that was the revelation. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Like, yeah, I went to see Kiss, but also this band. Anyway, the guys were all like into whatever. And the girls that I grew up with, it was like New Kids on the Block, Vanilla Ice, Hammer era, right? Like that's what.
Yeah.
And so I'd say, I like the Beatles. That's it. Full stop. I would listen to the radio, but they would argue with me that the New Kids were better, and they would argue with me that Belle Biv DeVoe and Tony were better. So you'd have these little weird arguments, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, we'll see. And of course, I've subsequently learned that they're like, I guess Vish was right. The Beatles were pretty good. You know, I was a kid. Anyway, my point is this. I don't even know what my point is. I'm just transported back to when I listen to this record. It feels very fresh and contemporary. I love it. But I can't help, because of my own biases and my own experiences, being drawn back to, oh, this takes me right back to when I was a kid. A little like 6-7 years older than you, I guess, really.
Most certainly.
Yeah. So
that's how I wanted it to feel. Like I said, I wanted to feel like house party. Like the junior high party stuff. You know what I mean? The stuff that folks were putting on at the host party.
Yes, exactly.
Jams.
Yes. So that
I wanted to make sure it was that.
Yeah. Well, you did it, and it's wonderful. So I just want to say all those things, and I just want to say I appreciate you and I appreciate it. So now that you're done with this record and it's out, it's been out a little while actually.
Since July 23rd or 2nd or something, one of them.
Yeah, it's been out a while. I know it's hard to plan things. You've got your family person and you work. Do you think there will be touring? Are you working on new music? What's going on with you right now, Lance?
So we kind of did like a little like summer tour. Definitely not ready to tour at the moment. When I'm basically I'm in the process of acquiring some funding so I can really build a show and build a proper show. Like I'm in that thing right now of like just make sure I build a proper show so when we are ready we can take it on the road. I'm in the process of development as well. Like I started some voice lessons. I want to make sure my voice is on the long game. I'm starting to take guitar lessons. Like I'm just on the development thing. At work, I'm still doing plumbing. I'm still doing that 7 to 3. I'm kind of in a transition phase. I don't know if I really want to do that full time. I'd like to do it on the side on my own time. It's currently, just in a transition phase and maybe switching careers right now. There's definitely some stuff in the works. I can't really say too much right now because I'm not sure if it's going to pan out. But we're definitely in a transition phase of doing or not doing plumbing full time, getting into more community based work. And like we're currently. We're in the talking and development stages as well as developing a theater show with 2B Theater. Oh. That's another thing that we're working on. And I'm not really a tour guy. We did really appreciate the summer tour that we did for this album because it was mainly like a thing to really get my background vocalists ready and like chopped up and like knowing the songs. Because I like to do things in stages, get the background vocalists on deck. They know the music now, or they know the songs now lyrically, and then I'll start just practicing with the band. And once we get all that ready, then we can all just mash together. Background vocalists are already ready to go. But I don't really feel like I'm not going on tour until I know I'm where I want to be, like vocally, guitar wise, and professionally. I'm not going nowhere until I get that down packed.
I see.
I want to spend some money on the development first. And that's just kind of what we're doing. Like, I'm just waiting for things to pan out. Like October 17th, we're doing another week of talking about the 2B Theater show, how that's going to pan out. That's going to be really focused on, obviously, my life, but also touching on just like the justice system in general, and just how music connects a lot of folks within justice system, prison system. That's kind of what we're working on now, man. Like right now, we're also we're raising money for George Dixon Center. For those who are not familiar with George Dixon Center is in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It was it used to be a school for the hearing impaired before it became the George Dixon Center. Also founded by the Marcus Garvey, organization, whatever the heck it used to be. But we're raising money for George Dixon to upgrade their sound system. So, and we're raising it through selling African Funk T-shirts. So if anybody hears this and they want to support, they can go on Bandcamp, buy a T-shirt. $10 from every sale goes directly towards George Dixon Center, upgrade the sound system so we can have more community-based all-ages shows there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and just kind of slowly, just kind of picking at production and working on new music from home. Shout out to Nathan Doucette, just moved back down to Halifax. Jeremy's still here. In the coming weeks, or just like now that they're here, like we're just able to kind of jam out and hang out a lot more. So
that's great.
We're gonna work on building the tracks up back again, building a set up back again. And shout out to Forward Music for really believing in the vision. Shout out to Black Buffalo Record for believing in the vision. Shout out to everybody who's really believing the vision, man. Like I didn't think that Don't Trip was gonna really touch folks in this way. You know what I mean? Like I don't really put out music and think about, oh, how's this gonna be? I'm just really glad like it's coming natural, and I'm really happy with the videos that we put out for Don't Trip, Lunch, and African Funk and Magic. That was one that we put out first, and we kind of I had to take it down because I was like, oh, Magic's going back on the new on the Don't Trip thing, so I had to take it down, put it back up. Shout out to Alex Kingsmill for really believing in the vision too on that Don't Trip video. Man, Cuss came down from Toronto and hung with us for a week, and we just hashed out that video concept. Man, it looks great, looks beautiful. I love the concept. Lunch, Jules really took the lead on that, man. Basically set up a bunch of, picnic tables and a date day for a lot of our friends, a lot of our partner friends, and we had another two of our friends play us in that one. Shout out to Stephanie John. Shout out to Chris Murdoch. Which Chris Murdoch actually, Chris Murdoch, we've gotten to know each other over the years, and it was really cool to have when I saw him sit down with Nardwar, and Nardwar actually mentioned Aquakultre in that. So it was really
nice.
Cool.
Nice. Well, listen, I just want to say this is an album of the year. There's no doubt in my mind. Don't Trip is amazing, and I appreciate all the acknowledgments you gave to people and all that community work you're doing. It sounds like you're very busy. But yeah, honestly, like, you top caliber artist here. I hope it does pan out, as you mentioned, for you, because this is bizarre to me that people aren't talking about this record. So I hope this little conversation helps spread the word about you and about this record. Speaking of which, Lance, if people want to learn more about Don't Trip and Aquakultre, where would you like to direct them on the internet, socials, websites, these sorts of things?
I mean, if you truly want to really get to know me, man, you can follow my Instagram. I market my life, you know what I mean, how it is. I don't really try to be, I'm here. DMs are always open. You can holler at me anytime.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram. My website sucks. I really wouldn't go there. But Instagram is basically like the main form of communication for me. Emails as well. Anything Aquakultre, anywhere you listen to Aquakultre, or anywhere you listen to music, you can find Aquakultre. Don't Trip, really proud of Don't Trip, man. Like, you can really see the growth.
Yes.
With the albums that we put out.
Yeah.
And again, make sure you guys go buy a t-shirt, Afro-Villian Funk t-shirt. Let's raise some money for George Dixon.
That's on the Bandcamp.
Please.
Bandcamp.
That's on the Bandcamp. Okay. Please go to Bandcamp and you can find that. You can buy a t-shirt. I know shipping costs suck, but it's for a good cause.
I will link to these things in the podcast description just so people know where to find your stuff and that stuff as well. Lance, if we can go out on a song from Don't Trip. Now that I'm remembering our last chat, I feel like you even let us go out on an unreleased song from Closure, as I recall, which is bonkers to me. Thanks so much for your generosity in that regard and for coming back to the show. I just wanted to say that because I haven't yet. No, I really do appreciate you and the time you give me. But regardless of all that, if there's a song we can go out on, I assume from Don't Trip, but you have a tendency to surprise me. What song would you pick, and why did you choose it?
Okay, before I answer that question, I want to know what your favorite song is off the album.
Well, as I said, Don't Trip.
Do you have
Don't
one?
Trip gets in my head a lot. When it comes on, I'm just I have the record playing in the living room from time to time, and whatever I'm doing, if I'm doing something else for some reason, that song just gets me. So I just want to, maybe that's obvious. I also like Lunch. I also love, I love It's All Good. It's All Good just gets into my head as well. So I have a few different favorites. I'm For Real is great. Sorry. I'll be honest with you. We didn't even talk about Hit Woman versus Loser Supreme. Sorry, we didn't even talk about that. There's all sorts of great songs on here, but I like. Okay, if I were to tell you my top three, it would probably be Don't Trip, It's All Good.
Yeah.
I Love I Can't Wait. Magic, as I said, holy Lord, that is a real amazing feat because that's just you. And I was so just impressed with the music and the recording and your vocal as well. It's wonderful. Anyway, why are you doing this to me? I already gave you a bunch of compliments. Why are you picking? Stop it. I just asked you to pick the song and tell me why you wanted to pick it. That's all. Don't do this to me.
Okay. If we're really breaking it down, I'd have to leave with Afro-Villian Funk, man.
Oh, I didn't even say that one.
Because
look at that. I didn't mention one I didn't say. Okay, sure.
Afro-Villian Funk is very special because it really shows the roots of Africville, because that's two Africvillian descendants getting together and really putting something together. Like Tremaine Howe is an Africvillian descendant. I'm an Africvillian descendant. I'm not sure if we're related in any way, but it shows the resilience of Africville. It shows it's Africville at its core. Just, in terms of musicality, the soul, the swag, the funk. It's all in there. African Funk, I really hope you guys can listen to this track as well, and just go check out the video, please. The video is so informative, and the video tells a tale of the hermit just doing some timeless work for the community and getting the mayor to sway from his role into helping Africvilleans helping Africvilleans fight. Yeah. That's what it's about. Please go check it out.
I want to just highlight a lyrical fragment here for people to listen for. We got the Africvillian funk, CFL player, now run it back. You about to give me a heart attack. George Dixon will knock a brother back. Richard Preston will reawaken and come hunting for that. Now look it up. Now look it up. So I got to look up some of that stuff. You alluded to at least one of those people there, but I loved all of that, and stuck out for me. So you know what? Let's do it right now. This is, oh, by the way, who does this feature? This has got a feature on it, doesn't it?
This is Trobiz.
Yeah.
Tremaine Howe, a.k.a. Trobiz, the great, the funkiest, the OG legend himself, businessman, producer. Oh, man, I got to go on forever, man. Tremaine Howe, a.k.a. Trobiz. Let's rock.
All right, from definitely one of the greatest albums to come out in the Earth year 2022. The album is called Don't Trip. The artist is Aquakultre. This is Africvillian Funk featuring Trobiz. Lance, I love you, buddy. Thank you so much for coming back on the show and sharing some time with me, and I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Vish, thank you so much, man. I got to pay you respect. Got much love. I got to pay respect because, man, like a lot of folks started talking to me after our first chat. You know?
Wow.
Like folks that I didn't think that would ever talk to me or show love, they started talking to me. And I was like, man, like I think Vish made me famous.
I can't believe that's true in any regard, but I appreciate the sentiment. I feel like you made me famous, so thank you for that. And hey, you blurbed me, right? Is my blurb still in your Twitter bio? Or did you take it down?
It is still there. Everywhere is that anything like it's you're still there. You're still
All
there.
right, we are connected potentially forever. Lance, thank you again, and I hope we talk soon.
Green eggs and ham, baby. Let's rock.
Don't get salty and let a lamb chop. I know you feel it, so get out of your seat. Come on. Ancestry, you make your fine tingle. Big old booty, you make your eye linger. I laugh because you're rolling with me. We better smash it up. Tell somebody about it, cause I don't think they tag is us. Baby, tell my baby to bag it up. I'm better baggy talking shit, you can't bag it up. I'm going taxi. Smash it up. Tell somebody about it, cause I don't think they bag is up. Tell my baby to bag it up. I'm better baggy talking shit, go get you bag it up. Go bag it up. We got the African funk. Nah, 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 nah. Come on now. We got the African funk. We got the African funk. We got the African funk. CFL playing a running back. You about to give me a heart attack. George Dixon and knock a brother back. But you're pressing a reawakening. I'm hunting for that. Nah, stop playing with me. No matter your skin color, just enjoy the beat. Who that brother that just destroyed the feast? Keep it moving, I'll have you sweating to the floor to keep. Now clap your hands with me. We got the African funk. Nah, 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 nah. Come on now. Whoa. We got the African funk. 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 We got the African funk.
on the floor, please.
Shout out to Uncle D.
Put that shit back on the table. You better not have any food in your hands either, cause if that shit get on the floor and we slip and fall, we coming for that head. Bet.
Man, what a great album this Don't Trip by Aquakultre is. I hope you got a little flavor for it now. You got it? You feel it? You taste it on your tongue? It's so great. Thanks again to Lance Sampson from Aquakultre for appearing on this, the 727th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control on Facebook or follow the show on Twitter at Vish Creative, or you can follow me directly on Twitter and on Instagram at vishkhanna. Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to sustain this podcast. That's the primary source of revenue for the show. All the work I put into the show, that's where I get most of the dough. It's very kind of all of you who do donate and support the show in this regard. $6 or more a month grants you access to exclusive content, early episodes. You get the episodes earlier than everyone else now. I try to go into my archives, and I had a request for archive material, actually, specific archive material, so I'm going to go hunt for that and put it up. Sometimes bonus overtime conversation with my current guests, all sorts of things. Again, $6 or more a month grants you access to all that stuff, but you can do any amount you want. You can do less than $6 a month. You can do more. You can pay for a whole year's worth of support in one shot, or you can go on a monthly thing, and you can change it at any time. You can change whatever you're doing at any time. So it's really flexible. And if you're interested in receiving a Creative Control t-shirt, I have some left. Please message me on Patreon, and I'll get you one while supplies last. Thanks again to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario, for their in-kind support for this show. Thanks, as always, to my dear, old, and relatively tiny friend, Jim Guthrie, for letting me use music of his on the show. You can learn more about Jim at jimguthrie.org. Check out his Tiny Desk concert, by the way. He seems giant in that. And finally, thank you for listening to this episode with Aquakultre. Man, you got to check out Don't Trip. It's so great. I know I went on and on about it, but I hope you check out the whole album and sit with it, because it really moved me. The first few times I listened to it, I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was that surprise, you know? And then I've loved it ever since. I think it's great. My whole family enjoys it. So there you go. Check out Aquakultre. Thanks for subscribing to this podcast or following it and telling your friends to do the same and spreading the word about Creative Control. It means a lot to me. I hope you're doing okay. It's a weird time as I talk to you. I don't know if anyone knows what they're doing. I'm doing my best. I hope you're well. Be safe, all those things. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.